Members of Parliament, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues. We are reaching the end of two highly interesting days with fascinating presentations and lively debates. I'm firmly convinced that the international dialogue on how we can manage the transition to a low-carbon economy is indispensable for developing a sustainable energy policy. So I would like to thank you all for taking part in the Berlin Energy Transition Dialogue. Our conference has impressively demonstrated the progress that many countries have already achieved in their own energy transitions. This is very important right now for two reasons. Firstly, a lot of governments are using the momentum from Paris to boost their energy transitions. This is crucial for the credibility of our policies. Secondly, we need a lot of countries on board because the more of us there are, the faster the markets will grow and the costs will fall. Also, we have achieved good results in the various breakout sessions. I would like to briefly summarize the main points. There is a clear trend. The expansion of renewable technology, and especially of wind and solar, is picking up speed around the world. In our discussions, we have identified a key driver for this development, the specific national expansion targets, coupled with the necessary support schemes which many countries have already introduced. It was very impressive to hear yesterday's reports from the IEA and IRENA about the massive cost reductions in wind and solar technology due to advances in technology and economies of scale. This is highly encouraging. In fact, the amount of new renewable energy capacity installed last year again outstripped that of new fossil fuel power generation. At the same time, the investments in clean technologies last year reached a new all-time high, despite the low prices for oil, coal, and gas. This is also highly encouraging. In the electricity sector in particular, the intermittent renewables are now starting to dominate the market in many countries and regions. In Denmark, in California, in Germany, and also China is making enormous progress, and other countries as well. However, these developments also create new challenges now, and we must not underestimate them. This was another point that became very clear in the discussions. The integration into the grid of larger quantities of intermittent renewables must not pose a risk to grid stability and must take place in a cost-efficient way. There's basically a consensus that we need greater flexibility in the overall system, both on the supply side and on the demand side. I think we were all impressed by the message from the experts on grid integration. We are already able to cope with shares of intermittent renewables of over 80% and at the same time maintain a secure and reliable supply and keeping the grids stable. At the same time, however, the growth of renewables has to be synchronized with the development of the overall system. This is the only way to ensure that the energy system remains secure and affordable. The issue of energy efficiency was rightly at the focus of two of the panels. They showed clearly that energy efficiency can no longer be called a sleeping giant. In addition to generating and selling energy, energy efficiency services and solutions are becoming more and more important. The lively debate on the transport sector showed us that there is currently an intensive rivalry between a number of innovative approaches, from using more electricity and hydrogen to advanced biofuels. There was a consensus that there is a lot of untapped potential here for higher efficiency and the increased use of renewable energies. And much remains to be done in other sectors as well. The building sector is clearly one of these. In this context, I would like to encourage you to make progress in the coming weeks and months on the Global Alliance for Buildings and Constructions, which was decided in Paris. It offers vital potential for efficiency, which we need to leverage if we are to attain our climate targets. Another focus of our discussions was the question of how the future funding systems for renewable energy needs to be designed. A trend can currently be seen in many countries. Mature technologies need to increasingly stand on their own 2 feet, facing more competition and market mechanisms. Countries like South Africa and Brazil have been working very successfully with competitive auctions. Long-term targets create predictability, and that's what we need to attract private investments. The experience of the countries gathered here has shown that by setting intelligent framework legislation, governments can play a big part in reducing the financing cost and creating an attractive environment for investment. The financing, or rather the price of financing, ultimately depends on whether there is a reliable policy and regulatory framework for the investment. Ladies and gentlemen, our conference has reminded us of the important contribution that energy efficiency and renewable energy will make to meet the climate targets that we agreed on in Paris. And once again, we find that the sharing of experiences and best practices enables us to achieve our energy and climate targets more quickly and more efficiently. On this note, I would like to thank you again for your participation and for making such valuable contributions. And before I say goodbye now, I would like to introduce the last speaker, my colleague Stefan Steinlein. You have the floor. Auf Wiedersehen. Have a good and safe trip back. Thank you very much.